Welcome to 8-Limb Life, a podcast on living the 8 limbs of yoga, one step at a time. My name is Andra, and I am grateful you are sharing your time and presence with me as we explore this sacred wisdom. These teachings are ancient, but they're not meant to live in the past. They show up in how we speak, how we act, how we relate to others, and to ourselves. Each episode explores one of the limbs and how we can bring this wisdom into modern life. This is 8-Limb Life. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be discussing the fourth of the 5 yamas, Brahmacharya. This is often translated as celibacy, though it can mean much more than that. Historically, for monks, renunciates, and ascetics, that interpretation made sense. If someone devoted their life entirely to liberation, stepping away from sensual pleasure and worldly attachment was considered part of the path. But most of us are not living in monasteries. We live in families and in cities. We answer emails and sit in traffic. So perhaps the deeper question of Brahmacharya is not, how do I override desire, but what am I giving my life force to? Because energy leaves us in many ways, not only through sexuality, but through distraction, comparison, overconsumption. Brahmacharya invites us to live more deliberately, to stop scattering ourselves in every direction, to notice what actually nourishes us and what quietly depletes us. In the older yogic traditions, Brahmacharya was not originally presented as a general wellness concept. It emerged within systems of intense spiritual practice that were deeply concerned with energy, consciousness, and liberation. In many classical paths of yoga philosophy, human life force was understood as precious and transformative. Yogis believed that attention, sexuality, breath, emotion, and vitality were all connected expressions of the same underlying energy. The more scattered a person became through compulsion, excess, distraction, or sensory attachment, the harder it was to stabilize the mind deeply enough for meditation and spiritual awakening. Within that context, Brahmacharya often did mean celibacy, not because sexuality was considered sinful, but because sexual energy was seen as profoundly powerful. Certain renunciate traditions believed that conserving this energy could intensify spiritual focus and support the awakening of Kundalini, the latent spiritual force described in yogic and tantric traditions as resting at the base of the spine. The idea was that instead of constantly directing energy outward into stimulation, desire, or physical release, the practitioner could redirect that energy upward toward clarity, devotion, awareness, and ultimately liberation. For an ascetic practitioner, celibacy made practical sense within the life they had chosen. But what does Brahmacharya mean for people living ordinary lives? People with partners, children, jobs, and responsibilities. And this is where the principle becomes more nuanced and in many ways more compassionate. For those of us practicing yoga while living in society, Brahmacharya gradually came to be understood less as about abstinence and more as about the wise use of energy, less about denying desire and more about developing intimacy with our own patterns. For modern practitioners, especially householders, Brahmacharya may be less about withdrawing from life and more about learning how not to abandon ourselves within it. A question you might consider for reflection is, what helps my life force move toward wholeness? A student asked a monk, "How do I know if something is right for me?" The monk replied, "After spending time with it, do you feel more alive or less?" The student asked, "Is it really that simple?" And the monk said, "Most truths are simple. Living them is the difficult part." A woman had a dear friend she had known for years. They laughed easily together, shared long conversations, genuinely cared for one another. But over time, the woman began noticing something she had ignored for years. After spending time with this friend, she felt exhausted. Her nervous system was overwhelmed. She would leave their conversations restless and overstimulated. Her mind raced late into the night. She felt strangely drained, even when nothing was openly wrong between them. The friend moved through life intensely, and for a long time, the woman believed being a good friend meant matching that energy. Until the day she realized care and capacity are not always the same thing. She began responding more slowly, taking quiet evenings alone instead of long phone calls with her friend, meeting for shorter periods of time, listening without trying to absorb every emotion. The friendship changed. At first, she worried this meant she loved her friend less, but gradually she understood something important. She was listening to her own body instead of abandoning it. And interestingly, the friendship survived, not because she gave more, but because she stopped giving from a place of depletion. In many ways, this became her practice of Brahmacharya, learning that energy is sacred, and the nervous system speaks honestly, and that wise love includes knowing how to remain connected without losing oneself in the process. This is a beautiful time to take a moment to look at the nervous system itself. It responds not only to major trauma or constant stress, but to tone of voice, pace of conversation, emotional intensity, even the feeling of needing to manage another person's emotions. Some relationships leave the body feeling safe and settled. Others quietly keep it in a state of tension and activation. We may not consciously be aware of it, but the body notices. Our nervous system is constantly scanning for cues of safety or stress, often far beneath thought. It shapes our mood, our digestion, our sleep, our ability to think clearly, even how patient or reactive we become with the people we love. The vagus nerve, which connects the brain with the heart, lungs, digestive system, and other organs, plays a major role in this regulation. When we feel safe, grounded, and connected, the nervous system can soften and regulate. But when we spend long periods of time around conflict, unpredictability, criticism, or pressure, the body may remain subtly activated even if the mind tries to rationalize it. Some relationships leave us feeling more fully ourselves. Others leave the body tense, restless, overstimulated, and exhausted. This is where discernment, or viveka in Sanskrit, fits in. We begin to choose wisely by paying attention to who and what nourishes us. I'd like to share a story of the Buddha and the middle path. Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama spent years searching for liberation. At first, he lived a life of great comfort and luxury as a prince. Surrounded by pleasure and beauty, he eventually realized that comfort alone could not protect him from suffering. So he left everything behind. And like many sincere spiritual seekers, he swung like a pendulum to the opposite extreme. He practiced severe asceticism. He fasted intensely. He deprived the body, pushed himself relentlessly. Some stories say he became so thin he could touch his spine through his stomach. He believed that freedom would come through total denial of worldly needs. But instead, his body weakened, his mind grew exhausted, and still enlightenment did not come. Then one day, sitting near a river, he overheard a musician teaching a student how to tune a stringed instrument. The teacher said, if the string is too tight, it will snap. If it is too loose, it will not play. And in that moment, something was understood. Wisdom was not found in indulgence, but neither was it found in self-punishment. The path required balance. So he accepted a simple bowl of food from a village woman, regained his strength, and eventually sat beneath the Bodhi tree, where enlightenment arose. This became known as the middle path, not a life of excess or of deprivation, but a life lived with awareness, balance, and deep attention. Brahmacharya can be understood in this way: not tightening ourselves so rigidly that joy disappears from life, and not living so unconsciously that our energy becomes scattered in every direction. The practice, the middle path, is learning how to live in balance. This is a good time to pause and remember that not all people are nourished by the same things. One person genuinely thrives with a busy, outward-facing life. Another needs solitude to feel balanced. One person restores themselves through movement, another through quiet. One person can give generously without depletion. Another must learn strong boundaries to remain steady. Sometimes Brahmacharya is less about what we do and more about how we feel while doing it. Are we acting from clarity or compulsion? From fullness or fear? From genuine care or obligation? Two people can do the exact same job, or attend the same gathering, or follow the same routine, and one leaves feeling nourished while the other leaves feeling depleted. The outer action matters less than our inner relationship to it. Let's think of a brother and a sister who grew up together in the same small house, but their inner rhythms were very different. The brother moved quickly through life. He was social, always reaching outward, energized by noise and momentum. The sister moved more quietly. She needed silence after busy days, long walks alone, and time to settle her nervous system after being around too many people. For years, the brother thought something was wrong. "You hold back too much," he would say. And so the sister began trying to match his pace, saying yes when she was already tired, ignoring the tightness in her chest. Eventually, she understood her energy was not weak. It simply flowed differently. She began to protect her mornings, to listen when her body needed rest. The more she honored her own rhythm, the more life returned to her, like a pond becoming clear again after being constantly stirred. And in time, the brother also began to see that there are many ways to move through the world. Some people gather energy from the brightness of life, while others guard a quieter flame. Brahmacharya may ultimately be less about restriction and more about intimacy with our own lives. A quiet and honest relationship with our energy, learning to notice what leaves us feeling clear, grounded, and connected, and what leaves us scattered, depleted, or distant from ourselves. Over time, we begin to recognize what strengthens us, what fragments us, what deepens our presence, and what pulls us away from the life we are actually living. Because not all exhaustion comes from doing too much, and not all vitality comes from rest. Sometimes energy returns the moment we stop suppressing who we are. Brahmacharya asks us to become students of our own inner life, to pay attention to the rhythms of body, mind, emotion, and spirit, to begin living with greater intentionality and care. In this way, we remain connected to ourselves, to others, and to something sacred moving quietly within us all. Next week, we will explore the fifth and final yama, aparigraha. Until then, may you know the sacred moving quietly within you. Thank you for sharing your time and presence with me, exploring the 8-limb life. My name is Andra, and I look forward to connecting with you more deeply with each and every episode. If you'd like to stay for an additional reading, I will share one at the end of each episode. May joy, love, peace, and laughter fill your lives and the lives of those around you. Namaste. Today, rather than sharing a poem or a passage, I'd like to share a mantra. Brahmacharyam palayemi. I honor and uphold the wise use of energy. Brahmacharyam palayemi. Brahmacharyam palayemi. Brahmacharyam palayemi. Brahmacharyam palayemi. Brahmacharyam palayemi.